So the difference between TSAR 54 and USAR 54, essentially TSAR 54 is the old USAR 154, and what it does is it straddles the line between a USAR apparatus and a water rescue apparatus. And TSAR comes from fire scopes changing of the definition from urban search and rescue to technical search and rescue, of which water rescue is a component. So because TSAR 54 is used for both water rescue and technical rescue USAR components, it's named TSAR. It has water rescue equipment and it has some limited rope rescue equipment on it, but it's not a typed vehicle from OES such as USAR 54 or USAR 40 is. Well, assuming that the members at the stations are all qualified for USAR, 54s has 7 members or 40s has 3. In order to be a typed USAR company by OES, you have to have a 6-member crew. So 54s would be able to fill that with the members that are there at the station if they're all qualified, while 40s, even best case scenario, would only have 50% of the membership required to meet that definition. Well, USAR 54 and USAR 40 complement each other, but they are typed as standalone heavy rescues by OES. So there's search cameras, there are listening devices for search, there's marking paint for victim marking, structural marking, and search markings. There's going to be breaking and breaching equipment, whether it's going to be metal cutting torches, concrete chainsaws, concrete saws, jackhammers, things of that nature. There's a very large rope rescue component with Stokes baskets, mechanical advantage, caps and winches, things of that nature, artificial high directionals such as an Arizona Vortex or a tripod. There's confined space rescue equipment that allow our members to make entry into permit required confined spaces on supplied air breathing apparatus and move up to 300 feet into the space while being on an umbilical air system, as well as trench rescue equipment so that we can shore a trench and successfully and safely enter into that. There's monitoring equipment so that we can monitor the atmosphere in trenches and confined space areas. There's also going to be ventilation equipment for trenches and confined space areas as well. And there's a significant amount of emergency building shoring in the event that you have a vehicle into a structure or an earthquake or an explosion or something along those lines. So our support companies carry a 600-foot rope bag. So theoretically, they should be able to perform a rescue probably about 550 feet over the side. But our engine companies are set up so that our engine companies can access victims in the low angle setting, which is where the majority of our rescuers' weight is on their feet. Our support companies can access and rescue in the low angle setting and access in a high angle setting, which is where the majority of our rescuers' weight is on the system. And then our USAR companies are able to access in a high angle and rescue in a high angle and of course do low angle work as well. So a vehicle over the side, it's going to be dependent upon what your patient needs are there. Obviously, if you have significant traumatic injuries, a long line from a helicopter may be the best way to get them out. However, you may be able to walk them out to a road below in a much safer capacity or bring them out up on a rope system. So those are kind of some of the concepts that we're thinking about is how far over the side, what is the angle of the slope, and what are the capabilities of the companies that are going to perform the rescue. So the Arizona Vortex are artificial high directionals, and they're essentially similar to a tripod, but it has more configuration capabilities. They're carried on USAR 54, TSAR 54, and USAR 40. So we'll use them for setting up an edge transition to go over the side or making entry into a confined space or something along those lines. A flying Stokes is an operation that can be done by our aerial devices, whether it's Truck 54, Truck 41, Truck 35, or Quint 44. I do know that Oxnard's trucks can do that as well, and essentially ropes run over the tip of the ladder are secured at the turntable of the truck, and by extending or retracting the ladder, that allows the load at the end of the rope to move up or down, and then the ladder can move it from side to side to pick off of a patient out of, say, a flood control channel or something like that. Without getting into the response matrices and things of that nature, going up to Maricopa, obviously it's going to be a long response, depending upon whether helicopters are on or off duty, and there has to be a recall. That's going to be something that needs to be considered. Different aid agreements that we have with the Forest Service are something that needs to be considered, as well as the capabilities of the units that are going to be going on scene. Medic Rescue Engine 23, as of right now, has a capstan winch. 31s and 27s will most likely be getting capstan winches as well, which allows them to do greater rope rescue capabilities, but they are still limited to the low angle. There's a lot of high angle that's up there up Maricopa Highway. As you start to talk about PCH, if you look on the land side, you've got Deer Hill. It's very steep. Again, you're still looking at high angle environments. You're going to have vehicles over the side that have been down that have not yet been marked. Anything that's going to be on the rocks, you assume you don't know whether it's high tide, you don't know whether it's low tide. You're going to have to assume that we're going to have to get somebody off the rocks. We're going to use a helicopter. We're going to set up a rope system. So you may need water rescue because tide's coming in or tide's already there, or you may need USAR to bring them up off the rocks, or a flying Stokes or something along those lines. So those are all considerations that should be considered. From an RTF deployment perspective, really what we immediately need from Region 1 is just to know the reporting location and as much information as we can get on the incident. The information will come into you from OES. It'll probably come to me from OES. It'll probably come to our duty from OES. We may have a fair amount of time. It's important to know that our RTF has a 45-minute launch window from when we get toned out to when wheels are rolling. And we have an advanced team that's going to go before our entire RTF gets there. They're going to skip the rally point altogether. Rally points are usually going to be either 51s or 54s, or could be 27s. And essentially what they are is a place for us all to meet en route to a location. And it's much like we do when we do strike teams and we rally at 25s, or we rally at 28s, or we rally at 43s. Same kind of concepts. It allows us to get everything together. RTF roster should be updated every day at 9 a.m. and that's going to tell you the equipment that's going in there, and it's going to let you know who your task force leader is and what their phone number is. Whether or not I'm on the roster as a use officer, I'm always something that somebody that can be called and talked to about that, so you can get a hold of me, and I will be traveling with the RTF regardless whether I'm on the roster or not. So a 45-minute launch window is going to be the big one for us. All the equipment and the people involved are going to be on the RTF roster so that that can all be put into IROC. And the rally points will usually be the decision of the task force leader. So you can reach out to the task force leader and ask that person, hey, you're going to be going up to Merced. Where would you like to tie in? They may want to tie in at 27s because they know that they're going to be taking the 5 to get up to Merced, versus you guys are going to be going up to Paso Robles. Okay, you know what, we're going to go ahead and tie in at 51s. So they're looking at something that's somewhat central for all organizations to meet at. For example, it would be difficult for us to meet at 54s because Ventura and Oxnard have to go into Camarillo so that we can then go up to Paso Robles. So, but ultimately it's going to be up to the task force leader to make that decision. You may be able to provide suggestions. So you guys are going to tone us out, and the majority of your team is going to go to the rally point, and then there's 3 members of the team: the assistant safety officer, the rescue manager, and the search manager. They're the advanced team. They're going to deploy directly to the site, and they're going to make what we call the handshake agreement. They're going to make contact with whoever the point of contact is, and they're going to say, hey, we're RTF 7. Where are you guys going to put us? They're going to go in there. They're going to do a survey of the site and have an idea of the mission. They'll be able to report that information back to the task force leader and the assistant task force leader. But essentially, from the perspective of urban search and rescue, the expectation is that you're going to get on scene. The first thing that you're going to do is search. You're there for live bodies. In the event you have a large-scale disaster such as Montecito or an earthquake or something like that, the first thing you need to do is provide a recon search of the area so that we can send out small teams and they can get a basic map of what the area looks like. From there, we've started building markings, victim markings, and search markings, and we're starting to build out a map at our base of operation or our BOO of exactly where we're going to put our resources together. Primary search comes next, and then there's a sliding scale from your primary search to rescue, and we start really getting into rescue of our entombed and heavily entombed victims. From there, you move into a secondary search, and then obviously at some point the incident decides that you move into a body recovery. Of course, we could also be sent for something like RTF-5 was out of Fresno. They were sent when the bulldozer rolled over onto the operator years ago on the brush fire, and search was not necessary. Their job was simply to get there and remove the bulldozer and perform the body recovery. So in essence, it's going to be dependent upon the mission, which is usually going to involve search and then accessing for victims in difficult locations. So it changes from month to month because the responsibilities and the rostering change between the three organizations that are part of RTF-7. But in essence, you're going to get USAR 40. They're going to be bringing Utility 40 towing cache trailer 1. You're going to get TSAR 54, and they're going to be towing their cache trailer as well. You're going to get USAR 68, Utility 68. You're going to get USAR 5, Utility 5. Then you're going to get an assistant safety officer vehicle, which will usually be the USAR officer vehicle. You'll get a task force leader vehicle, which will usually be the battalion chief vehicle. And then Squad 52 will come as the medical specialist vehicle. And then in addition to that, you'll get one fire engine that's there to provide any sort of fire protection that you're going to need.